This is Python's Paradise, and this is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena. And folks, it is March 31st, 2021, and thank goodness for Zoom. I am loving this format. I don't have to schedule time at the station, I can just do these on the fly. And folks, I have a return guest. This is the sixth time on Python's Paradise, but this is the second time we're just talking about him. We've done tributes to Lucille Ball, Ella Fitzgerald, Mary Tyler Moore, and Steve Allen. And we've done one just on him, and we're having him back. Yes, Geoffrey Mark, welcome to the show. You're such a well spoken, very well educated, knowledgeable guest.
And so handsome. You forgot that part.
You're
So
so handsome with that green hat on. I love that. You're all classy.
well. I asked Greg when we were talking about doing the show yesterday. I said,
Uh huh.
"What's your favorite color?" He said green. I said, "You got it." So this is just for him.
I
You can
love
enjoy
green.
it.
Yep.
You can enjoy it too out there, but this is for Greg.
There we go. There we go. You know, how are you dealing with this whole COVID thing? Like here in New Brunswick, we got the jump on it, and we're in what you call the yellow phase here, which is the next closest to the green phase, which would mean home free. I've been back to the movie theater since last July, but I can't get into the station, which kind of makes no sense to me, really. But this has been a nice counter to whoever invented Zoom. God bless them.
God bless him. It's been different here. I live, as some of you may know, I live just outside of Palm Springs, California. So
Hmm.
I'm on the west coast of North America. Here in Southern California, it's bad. Uh,
Oh.
they keep opening and closing and opening and closing, and numbers drop, and they get all excited, and everything opens up. And because everything opens up, the numbers go up again, and then the things close down again. And so I have a good remedy for all of that. I stay home.
Hmm.
Like you said, thank God for Zoom. I'm able to be all over the world through my cam here and my microphone. And I leave the house to go to doctors if I
Hmm.
have to. I
Hmm.
leave the house to pick up groceries curbside. They put them
Yep.
right back in my car for me, and I drive away. Other than that, I get to see my kids every once
Hmm.
in a while in my driveway with masks on.
Hmm.
Um, I err on the side of being conservative because I have COPD. Since I have an underlying lung condition, my medical people said, Jeff, just wait it out and you'll live through this. And so I'm not going to movie theaters, and I'm not going to restaurants, and I'm not having people over. And I've gotten my first inoculation. I'll get my second one in about 3 weeks.
What
And
is your reaction to it? I hear various things. Was it
I got
was
ill. I got ill.
okay?
Not deathly ill,
Hmm.
but I got the Moderna one. And
Okay.
for about 4 days, I had a low grade fever, very low energy, kind of achy, a little bit of a sore throat. Nothing awful, and nothing that isn't absolutely worth getting inoculated for.
Okay.
So I look forward to the next inoculation. I
Hmm.
expect to feel under the weather. It will go away. I won't, which is the important thing, and move forward. And then what that looks like after that, I'm not listening to the internet, and I'm not listening to necessarily what the government says. I'm
Hmm.
listening to what my doctors say.
Yeah.
And what they're telling me right now is you will continue to wear a mask. You'll be able to go into some small places. You'll be able to eat outdoor restaurants. As people get inoculated, as people get inoculated and survive, you'll be able to have people over to your house with masks on. So it's a slow opening up into the world for me. Meanwhile, meanwhile, I have so much work on my desk to keep me busy. Again, thank God. I have two radio shows of my own that are debuting as we're talking, and I'm working on three books. So, and possibly a documentary. So
Oh,
thank goodness
nice.
I have lots of work to keep me busy, and you can almost see it over here, my Emmy Award. My Emmy to remind me I had a career, and doing things with wonderful people like you.
Well, I appreciate that. I worked through the pandemic because I work as a cleaner. That's where I get my money. So I haven't stopped, but I did miss doing this through the rest of 2020 after we everything shut down in March. And I was like, wow, I'm so glad to get back at this. But I'd like to be able to travel this fall if I can to Toronto for if I can. I didn't take any vacation time last year, and so I mean, what's the use of taking time off to sit at the apartment? I do that when I'm not working, you know? Yeah.
My travel plans are on hold until 2022. I've got at least two books coming out next year.
Hmm.
And so I'm going to be traveling all over the United States and Canada next year, promoting my books, and I'm going to do a singing tour.
Hmm.
So hopefully I'll be in Toronto, and hopefully I'll be in Vancouver, and I'll try my best to get to New Brunswick so I can take you out to dinner.
Oh,
Uh,
I
so
appreciate that.
I will get a chance to see my Canadian friends, but I put off travel till next year.
Well, you know what? Probably a good thing. And like I said, I wear my mask when I'm out in public. I got a nice Blues Brothers mask.
As should come as no surprise to you, I have sequin masks.
Huh?
As should come as no surprise to you, I have sequin masks. Sequins.
Oh,
Sparkles.
okay. Okay. Well, I know before we closed down, I did 30 interviews in 2020 before everything shut down. I did have some good ones in there. Somebody that I'm pretty sure I had on Valentine's Day, I had Tony Basil, and that was wonderful. I like her.
She's such a talented lady.
Yeah. I always hated Valentine's Day until she came on my show, made me believe in it again.
This Valentine's Day, I was doing this in London. I was a speaker at the International Jack Benny Convention and spoke about Mr. Benny being on game shows in the 1950s and 60s. Next year, they're going to have me back and I'll talk about Mr. Benny's work with Lucille Ball. So I got to
Okay.
spend Valentine's Day, which is Jack Benny's birthday,
Hmm.
talking about Jack. So that was nice. Valentine's Day has just zero interest for me anymore. The love of my life passed away 2 years ago, and at this point, that kind of romantic Valentine kind of thing just isn't a part of my life.
Well, Tony doesn't celebrate it either, but I did on Valentine's Day. I text her and I said to her, I said, I know you don't celebrate Valentine's Day, but thank you for allowing me to believe in it again. So when I think of Valentine's Day, I think of Tony Basil in the cheerleader outfit with the pigtails and
Yes, of
doing
course.
her thing. Yeah,
That's her iconic look. To
yeah,
everyone else,
yeah. I appreciate her coming on, and yeah.
by the way, ladies, did you happen to just notice his biceps from all that house cleaning he does? Take a look. We've got a sex symbol. There you go.
That's
All you
my
ladies and
Jesse the Body Ventura pose.
all of you ladies and some of you men, enjoy.
Yeah, that's my Jesse the Body pose, except I don't have the feather boas and the bandana and stuff like he does.
Yeah, you don't need it.
I'm not as outlandish as Jesse is.
No, but I like you better.
Okay. Have you met Jesse?
I met a lot of the wrestlers. I was a big fan when the WWE was still the WWF. In fact, I've been watching wrestling or had been watching wrestling since the 60s. So I remember Bruno Sammartino and people like that. And growing up in New York for the most part. And in my 20s in New York City, I used to hang out with a lot of the wrestlers. They used to train at a gym. I want to say
Actually, I'm going to cut you off there. You just wait a minute. You just wait a minute.
I can't imagine what he's going to be showing us. A bag full of things. What could they be? What could be in that bag that he wants to show us? I have
What
no
what's
idea.
in that bag? Let me see. Let me see. It's funny you mentioned that. I'd interviewed the director of Pro Wrestlers versus Zombies, and I got that on Blu-ray today. And
Let's
where
let's just
is it?
say that some of the wrestlers of the 70s and 80s befriended me. Ah,
That is
yeah.
Bruno,
Except
Bruno Sammartino. Now
except
this
there's
is a champion.
yeah, except there's no hair on his chest. It's not good. Bruno was a hairy bear.
Yeah, he
Uh,
was.
and he was a real wrestler. He knew what he was doing. He knew how to wrestle.
Speaking of hairy bears,
Yeah.
George the Animal
George the Animal
Steel.
Steel. I got to see George wrestle in Madison Square Garden, probably 1981, 82.
Yeah.
And, in a real wrestling ring, as opposed to being on television.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, they can't, those end things that he used to bite off and chew on. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
those are planted. In Madison Square Garden, they couldn't do that for him. So he wasn't able to be quite so over the top like he was on television. In fact, going to Madison Square Garden in New York to watch professional wrestling, there was more action in the audience. The boys,
Yeah.
the boys from New Jersey would come and they were ready to wrestle themselves. So they got all overexcited on who knows what they were taking. And whatever was going on in the ring, they would be fighting among themselves, literally tossing each other over their shoulders. It was more fun to watch them than it was to watch the professionals.
Well, I have
Yeah,
tremendous respect for Bruno. You know,
no, Bruno's different.
I'm
Bruno
hoping to
was the
get
real.
somebody. I'm hoping to get somebody out from his family on this podcast to do a tribute on him. Yeah.
Someday when we're not on the microphone, I'll tell you about me and Sergeant Slaughter.
Sergeant Slaughter. You know, I don't have a figure. I got one in the other closet, but I can't dig that out right now. But
That's okay. I had the real one. It's fine. We'll talk off mic about that. But
uh,
let's
who
continue with our talk here.
who else did you meet wrestling wise?
I met all of them. Hanson, Jimmy Valiant. Um, something? You're the first person who's ever asked me about this. No one's ever brought up the subject. I don't bring it up when I'm being interviewed because, all right, I got to meet these people. Who cares? But
Hmm.
since you care, I probably met most of the people who were popular in the late 70s, mid to late 70s, early 80s when I was, I got started in show business as a teenager. So I got to meet famous people very early in my life.
Roddy Piper?
I met him once. We didn't like hang out or anything, but I got to meet him once. He was a real good friend of a friend of mine. And when Roddy died, he cried. Roddy,
That's the
Roddy was
closest I came to crying too. His daughter has been on my show 3 times.
Roddy was, besides being very good looking, he was a good actor.
Hmm.
Some of these guys knew how to wrestle. Some of them had great bodies, but some of them knew how to really, I don't just mean in the interview part where they put on whatever kind of persona they wanted, but they actually could act. So when they were in the ring wrestling,
Hmm.
you had a good time watching them actually wrestle, not all of the hoopla and brouhaha that now happens before a match. I couldn't believe the last time I watched wrestling on television. I think it was an hour show. I think there was 4 minutes of wrestling. Everything else was theme songs and lights and men moving their arms up and down like this a lot and introducing their managers and everyone throwing shade at everybody else. And yeah, where's the wrestling? That's what I came to see, the wrestling. Ah,
Andre the Giant.
I met Andre.
Watching him take on Harley Race and Stan Hansen in Japan, those were some great wrestling matches.
I was starting to say before you went for your bag of toys that there was no, I'm not putting it down, that there was a gym on 56th Street, I think it was, between sixth off of Sixth Avenue. And it was a gym that catered to, you might think that these are a strange set of bedfellows, but you understand why if you know the insides of show business. It is where the porn stars, male, and the wrestlers all worked out. They worked out together, they stayed in the same hotels because they are kind of sort of allied industries. Men who are using their bodies, creating public personas that people want to watch for whatever reasons. And some of them overlapped. There were some wrestlers who did porn. There were some porn guys who did wrestling. And once I figured out where they were, I hung out there and befriended people.
Yeah.
Because I treated them like real folks, I didn't go gaga over their stage personas.
Hmm.
I treated them like human beings. They liked having dinner with me. They liked hanging out with me. They would invite me to their hotel rooms. So that's my big part of that world.
I suppose what back in Bruno's day, you must have seen Killer Kowalski. He was a pretty yeah, I like him.
Sure. Living in New York City in the 60s, even, wrestling was on all the time because they had
Yeah.
all these hours to fill. Back in the days when there was no cable, when it was just broadcasting stations, New York City had CBS, NBC, and ABC, but it
Hmm.
also had four local stations besides that. And they had to fill up programming. They didn't just throw on old reruns back then. Local stations actually had local programming. And I think WOR, Channel 9 and Channel 11 and Channel 5, I think all three at various points did wrestling weekends, Saturday afternoons, late nights. So if you were a television watcher, you got to watch the greats. I remember seeing Gorgeous George as a
Oh
very
yeah.
as a
He was
very little boy.
he was an influence to Ric Flair. You ever see Ric Flair?
Yes, yes. He was an influence to everybody because he's the one, the bleached blonde hair, the long hair,
Yep.
keeping in shape. The original wrestlers weren't necessarily bodybuilders. They were just strong, stocky guys who did this stuff and didn't mind wearing a Speedo while they were doing it. But they
Hmm.
didn't have six-pack abs and gigantic chests and stuff. They didn't do steroids. But
No.
it was Gorgeous George who kind of started this isn't just good-looking men who are strong throwing each other around. He's the one who really started the personality and everyone took from him after that because it worked on television. See, that kind of personality stuff doesn't really work in an actual wrestling arena
No.
because there's no close-ups, there's no TV camera. You're sitting half a mile back watching this thing. They have to wrestle. But they understood that television is different. And he was the first one to really get it in music. Everybody followed
Here's a personality.
that.
The Iron Sheik. A colorful individual. I like that. I got a bunch of these at a Comic Con, you know. They're all pre-posed, but you could throw these down a flight of stairs, not harm them at all.
I'm sitting here shaking my head thinking, I put on sequins to talk about wrestling. This is very strange. But like I said, you're the only one. I've been being interviewed for 48 years.
Yeah.
The only person who's ever asked me about wrestling.
Wow. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. He was one of the greats.
Yes, yes.
I won't show them all, but I'll show a few. I'm always a big fan of Jake the Snake Roberts.
Jake, I knew.
Huh?
Jake, I knew.
Yeah, Jake was great, and
Another good actor.
Randy Savage.
Another good actor.
Yeah, and of course, the king of hardcore, Terry Funk.
That's a little later.
Yeah, Terry, though, I'll tell you, he put his body through a lot more than most wrestlers did. Yeah,
Some of
but
the guys who crossed over porn also put their bodies through a little more than most wrestlers did.
yeah, yeah, I got a lot of them
Hey,
in
folks,
here.
are you enjoying this 2 hour visit with me?
Paul Orndorff.
Let's
All
get back,
kinds. Huh?
Greg. Let's get back to me.
Get back to you.
Sure. There's more.
You don't want to compete with the Iron Sheik.
I couldn't compete with it. On the other hand, I could never flex my biceps like he could. On the other hand, he couldn't wear sequins like I do. So we all have our talents.
Yes, that's right. Well, I find that interesting because wrestling today is horrible.
Yes.
I hate it. My brother and I won. was one Christmas Eve, watched wrestling one night, and we got through about maybe 15 minutes and was like, we went into the computer room and just turned on some of the classics. And back when people like Roddy Piper and Ric Flair could get real heat without it having to be scripted or this or that, you know. I think Vince went after what I like to call steroid users. Yep.
Well, because Vince, we're talking about Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Vince's father was really the father of modern professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And I started watching it in earnest, meaning not just occasionally as a little kid, but as a teenager. I began watching it right around the time Vince's father died and Vince took over. And he went from being this not bad looking, skinny guy, and then just year after year after year, he blew up. And so did his personality. He was actually not a bad TV personality when he was young.
Mm-hmm.
He was again, he was handsome, but he was not overbearing or aggressive. He let the wrestlers have the spotlight. He knew what to ask. He was
Mm-hmm.
prepared. But as the years went by, you felt like he wanted to be in the ring. He wanted to be the star. When it became such big business, when it stopped being pure entertainment and went into like how much money can we make here, the business changed. And
Yeah.
I am not young anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We don't talk about how old I actually am, but I'm not young anymore.
39.
Jack Benny was a little older than I. I'm 38.
38.
Uh, but yeah, I don't watch it anymore. I don't follow it anymore. The men who are wrestling, they're bodybuilders, they're models, and they're not very good actors, which amazes me.
No, they're not.
They're kind of dumb, and I don't need to watch what has become reality TV. I actually enjoy watching the wrestling,
Yep.
and there's so little of that available now. It's not a part of my life anymore. The wrestling years for me are a memory. I'm grateful that I got to meet some of the greats. A
Mm-hmm.
couple of them became personal friends, uh,
Mm-hmm.
or more. We'll talk about that off camera sometime too.
Yeah.
But don't you love how I tease you guys? You know why I'm teasing you? Because my autobiography is coming out next year, and I will tell these stories in my book, but not quite yet.
Yeah. No, I don't watch wrestling anymore either, but you mentioned Bruno Sammartino, and I had to. You're actually the second person I've had on here on Zoom who had actually. I have an actor on here who used to spar with Bruno Sammartino, and he was so excited when I had hauled out the Bruno Sammartino because a lot of today's young fans don't know who he is, and to me, I think he was the greatest champion wrestling ever had.
I think that's true across the board in show business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Youth always has to be served. Show business has been for a long time about what's happening right now. But young people, there is no show business history anymore. My kids might know who Jack Benny is. My grandchildren don't. They know who Lucy is. They don't know who Steve Allen is. They don't know who the big Broadway stars were. They've never heard of Irving Berlin or Cole Porter. They don't. They might know Bewitched. They might know things that were rerun in the 90s. But if they weren't rerun in the 90s, they don't know and they don't care because
Yeah.
they feel it isn't relevant to their lives. So a lot of my work, I mean, they love me and they appreciate, Papa's a celebrity and all these things he does, but they're not going to sit and read my books. They don't care who Ethel Merman was. But I
It's
knew them. Yeah, Papa, that's nice. What's for dinner? So it's a new world. And my audience is becoming baby boomers. But there is, thank goodness, a large number of people out there, young people, who are dying to know more about this history. And they realize that if you want to talk about Milton Berle, there are only so many people left who knew him well. I'm one of them. So If you want to talk about Milton, people come to me, or Steve Allen, or any of these celebrities that sometimes I will talk about on television or on radio or podcasts, because they're gone, and they're gone so long now that the people who knew them are, unfortunately, we're losing them. One we didn't lose, and I'm so thrilled as we are sitting here talking. Yesterday was my dear friend Peter Marshall's 95th birthday. Peter got COVID, and we almost lost him.
Oh,
Thank God he is home and was able to be a part of a very large online birthday party for him yesterday.
awesome.
So, yeah, well, he's just one of the sweetest, nicest, most talented, loving, generous people I've ever met. And he married someone just like that, his wife, Laurie Stewart. Uh, it's like, if I ever fall in love again, I'd like a relationship like they have because they take such good care of each other.
Yes, absolutely. It's funny, Steve Allen too. He performed at WrestleMania 6, speaking of wrestling. He did a couple of segments and I thought he was very, very funny. But
Well, Steve,
yeah.
Steve, like Dennis James,
Mm-hmm.
Steve had done some wrestling announcing early in his career.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Dennis James. I know the name probably, you're hearing crickets now from a lot of people who are watching and listening.
Mm-hmm.
But Dennis James was a television and radio announcer. And early in his career, because they needed someone, I mean, it was just that he existed. That's all the talent he needed. He existed. And they put him on the old Dumont network. At one time, there were four networks: CBS, ABC, NBC, and Dumont. And he began to host these wrestling things, except he knew nothing about wrestling. So he figured if I can't be accurate, I could be funny. And he would make up names for the various poses and throws and things. And then he would have things on his table where the microphone was, like a crackle bone. So if
Mm-hmm.
somebody pulled somebody's arm, he'd crackle it so that there'd be this sound effect behind. He made it camp. Really, it's Dennis who invented modern wrestling as we think of it. But Steve Allen was doing the same thing on the West Coast. The same lack of information, the same, he went kind of the same way. Let's make it funny, which is why Steve would show up for a wrestling thing. It was part of his early broadcasting history.
Wow. Well, you know what? It's speaking of history. I tell you, I wish cancel culture would become part of history and just get lost. I'm getting tired of that. It's like every day there's a group of people that find something that they need to change about history. I'm like, why not just learn from it? You know? And I'm getting frustrated listening to these people bellyache.
I kind of sit on the fence about this, to be honest with you. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to have an open conversation about this topic. On one hand, if we're talking about the American Civil War, the United States Civil War, and we're talking about the South and Confederacy and slavery, yeah, I don't think there should be statues honoring that.
No, I agree.
Maybe there should be a museum where all of these artifacts can be put into, rather than destroying them. Take all of these statues and flags and memorabilia, put them into a museum, let it be there for young people to see what it was all about and give information. Um, I don't believe in destroying things, but I also don't believe the Confederate flag should be put up as this bastion of, "Ooh, this is our wonderful history." No,
I
it wasn't
agree.
wonderful. Slavery is not wonderful, no matter how you look at it. Kate Smith. Kate Smith recorded a couple of records in 1929 and 30 that had the word darkies in the title. Is it wrong? Absolutely. And she's been erased from history now. You can barely find her on YouTube. Now, I didn't know Miss Smith personally. I was a great admirer of her talent. But if we start erasing anybody who used the word darky, who appeared in blackface, you have to eliminate not just Kate Smith, you have to eliminate, and I mean eliminate them completely. Al Jolson,
Yep.
Eddie Cantor, George Jessel, Fred Astaire, Judy Garland. Where does it stop? Where does it stop? Ted Danson. Where do we say in today's world it's wrong? They didn't know better back then. It doesn't mean that it wasn't wrong back then. They weren't being as sensitive and as thoughtful as they should have been. And put it into historical perspective, which is what guys like me are needed for, to put it into historical perspective. But if we pull one person, then everybody has to go. I think what's happened to a couple of liberal politicians in this country, my country, uh, who have lost their careers over a suggested slight. Well, if we do that, then a third of the people who are in politics have to go. Once we become selective, we're going to point our fingers at people we disagree with,
Hmm.
but not at the people we agree with. That's wrong. It needs to be even, it needs to be fair across the board. Black lives do matter,
Yep.
and there should be no equivocation. But what about white lives? Yeah, white people aren't being beaten to death. Black lives matter because it's a problem. And now we're having a problem with Asians, and their lives matter. When it becomes whatever suits my political agenda, as opposed to what's right and wrong, that's where I want no part of it. So I kind of agree with you and kind of disagree with you.
You
I,
mentioned the Confederate flag. What about the Dukes of Hazzard? Because I never ever thought of that when I was young, but
what about the Beverly Hillbillies?
yeah.
A show about people from the hills of Tennessee who become wealthy and move to Beverly Hills. And
Hmm.
the grandmother, Granny, for all those of you who have never seen the show, uh, in the 1960s was supposed to be in her early 70s. So she was born in the 1890s after the Civil War. But her money was still Confederate money. She never ever admitted that the South had not won. Well, what does that mean? That Granny's prejudiced, that Granny hated black people, that Granny thinks there should be slaves? So now I find the Beverly Hillbillies unwatchable. And I know Linda Henning. Her father, Paul Henning, created the show. Paul was not a bigot, but that's how the show was written in the 1960s. Dukes of Hazzard, that's how the show was written in the 70s. Where do we draw the line? And I don't know that I'm smart enough to know every time where we should draw the line, but we have to make it so that we admit there were problems, are sensitive to how people are treated and
Hmm.
portrayed, while we admit, okay, but when this was being done, we just didn't know better. And we'll do better
Exactly.
now. There's a wonderful Maya Angelou phrase: we do the best we can until we know better. And when we know better, we do better. I'd rather put our energies into knowing better and doing better
And
than going
improving
back.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
I can
agree.
absolutely see how, for a lot of people, and not just Black people, Latinos, Jews, gays, that the Confederate flag is not a happy, wonderful, any kind of a memory.
Hmm.
It needs to go into a museum, but it needs to go.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I used to watch Dukes of Hazzard growing up. I never thought, like, I back then I wasn't educated enough to know what that little flag on the top of the car was. But it's weird hearing it all today, and some of the stuff they're saying cancel culture on is stuff I'm just really shaking my head about. For example, some of the movies they've called out, Grease, for example. And this is where context and nuance has got to be put in perspective. They're saying the lyrics, tell me more, did she put up a fight? And they're saying that's a rape reference. No, it'd be about the same as somebody saying, well, Greg, she went out with you last night. Did she put up a fight? Meaning, like, how long did it take you to convince her to say yes? Or the situation that happened at the dance where they said all couples have to be boy girl, and they're saying this is against homosexuality, but I'm like, the story's taken place in 1958, nuance, and I'm like, a lot of this flies over top of these people doing the complaining. They got to look at it in the context.
I think there's layers of this. I think a large part of the cancel culture thing is not a liberal thing, it's a conservative thing. Because
Oh
they
yeah.
want to lose their background. This whole idea that somehow 100 years ago or back in the 20s and 30s, life was so much better in this country. We had to go back to that. No, it wasn't. It wasn't for a lot of people. It wasn't for white Protestants. We were in a depression and people were, taking a bath once a week and happy if they could afford bread. So it wasn't all that wonderful back then. We
No.
can't go backwards. We can only go forwards in time. So that's part of it. I'm going to be controversial about this rape thing. So let me be transparent.
Okay.
I have been raped. I have been molested as a child. This is not a secret. I have spoken about it at length to anybody who cares to hear about it. Having said that, you're walking down the street and a guy comes from behind a bush and grabs you and forces sex on you. That is rape.
Yes, I agree.
Okay? But, but, you go out with somebody, you get drunk, you get stoned, you have a nice dinner. You agree to go back to their home or you agree to have them at your home. You take them into the bedroom. You take off some of your clothes. And at some point, it hits you that you don't want to do this. And you say no, and they persist. That's wrong. They should not persist, but it's not rape. Rape means one person is completely innocent. And no, folks, I'm not talking about she wore a short skirt and she had to come in there. I'm not talking about
No.
that. No,
Yeah.
nobody has it coming to them. Whatever you're wearing, nobody deserves to be raped. But if you're drinking with someone, drugging with someone, getting naked with someone, in a bed with someone, you have led them to believe this is what you want. And yes, they should listen to you always when you say no. But it's not rape. We need another word for that. We need another word for men or women being stupid. Stupid is not the same as rape. Stupid is usually sexually, alcoholically, and drug induced. Rape is violence. It's a huge difference. They're both wrong, but they're both wrong differently. And I think if we lump everything under rape, well, then no one will have the courage to ask anybody out. Oh, he touched my hand. I was raped. No, that's not rape. I told him not to touch me around the waist. That's not rape. That's stupidity. There's a difference.
Yeah.
I have been raped. I know what rape is. I've been molested. I know what that is. And I have been in situations where I said no and someone kept trying. There's a difference. Wrong, but different. I
Yeah.
think
I'm sorry to hear that about you.
it's part of my background. My father molested me from the time I was in diapers. I grew up with that kind of thing. Um, I was raped in college. I was raped as recently as about 11 years ago. The difference is 11 years ago, it happened out here in the desert, where someone threw me down and tried to beat the crap out of them because I was no longer afraid. And I've learned that bullies stand down. And when this person tried to use your imaginations, folks, the whole Monty was what was wanted by this other person against my will. The minute I felt it happening, rather than being afraid, I beat the crap out of this guy. I don't think we'll ever do it again. Now, was that really, really, really rape, or that not saying no thing, kind of down the middle of this. But I didn't stand for it. And I don't think I have any more emotional scars. I think I'm a clean and sober person. As we're recording this, by the way, tomorrow, I am 32 years clean and sober. So I've had tons of self-help work and therapy through the years when I've needed it. And sure, I don't like the memories. They're not happy memories, but I don't live in them. It happened a long time ago, at least 38 years ago. And I moved forward in my life then.
And speaking of moving forward, you mentioned you had some books that I know you've written some books before, and I know you got some coming up.
That's
Please
that's
indulge me.
that's the most awkward segue I've ever heard in my entire life.
Well,
Let's talk
well,
about rape and let's talk about your show business career.
well, you know what? We talked about such a downer topic, and I'm like, I want to celebrate you, and,
Oh, great.
and yeah,
I'm happy. I let when I'm on a show like yours,
yeah.
you know I enjoy being with you. So I trust you.
I love having you on. Yep.
So I trust you.
Hmm.
And if I don't want to talk about something, I won't. So you didn't force me into anything, but sure. So let me tell you what's on my desk right now.
Sure.
So as you know, about 20 something years ago, I had a book published called The Lucy Book. It was a
Yeah.
compendium of Miss Ball's career on television from early live TV till she died. Steve Allen wrote a forward for me. Lucy Arnez and Desi Jr. wrote a forward for me. And I interviewed everybody who was still alive she ever on my desk now is the new Lucy book. And I'm doing her radio shows, her films, her live stage shows. Fran Drescher has written a new forward for the book, and new interviews of people like Anne Margaret and Carol Burnett and Rich Little. And that will be coming out in the fall of next year. And that's why I will be in Canada promoting it. Hopefully get a chance to see me.
I
I'm
love
working.
Fran.
I love Fran too. She's been
Yeah.
very, very, very wonderful to me, as has Peter, her ex-husband, who created the name. Also on my desk, I am working with porn star extraordinaire, adult film star Amber Lynn on her memoirs, which we
Andrea
hope will also
Lynn.
be coming out next year. Amber is a wonderful woman.
I never heard of her.
Oh, yes,
Andrea
you
Lynn.
have.
Oh,
When we're done, Google her and you'll go, oh, I saw those films. Of course I did. I saw them, so I assume you saw them. I know I'm a little older than you, but
well, I'm familiar, for instance, with Beyond the Green Door and stuff, and Deep Throat and stuff like that.
well, if you saw The Devil and Miss Jones, she was in The Devil and Miss Jones
Oh,
2.
I know that.
She was in The Devil and Miss Jones 2.
Okay.
Amber Lynn really is the preeminent American adult female star.
Oh, you said Amber Lynn. I thought you said Andrea Lynn.
So Amber, and
Amber. Okay, I know who you're talking about.
I'm sure she put a smile on your face somewhere along the time in your life. I adore her. I adore spending time with her. I adore talking with her, and it's work. Hard. A book is always hard work, but I'm
Hmm.
really enjoying the process. The third book on my desk is my memoir, which is The Devil Was Born in Brooklyn, which tells the story of my childhood and my drug and alcohol problems and all the stars I've known and loved and worked with through the years. But it's also a love story. It tells how I met at the age of 13 a man named Joel Capek, a boy named Joel Capek, and how we were together for 47 years and nobody knew about it because he was bisexual and homophobic and was afraid of what society would say. That's
47 years?
I met him 2 weeks before my 14th birthday,
Okay.
and he passed away 2 years ago. Now you know how old I am.
39.
39, a couple of. Um, so it tells the story of our love, our relationship, our kids and grandchildren, and so it's all of that. It's my crazy, horrific childhood, what happened with that, my drug and alcohol abuse, what happened with that, my career and all the people, and the love story with Joel interwebbed, there's no word like that, interwoven throughout the book. So I've got those three books on my plate. The radio shows, and they're all being released starting next week as we're recording this. By the time you see or hear this, they will be available on Apple and iTunes and Spotify and on radio stations across North America. One is called Geoffrey Mark Plays Ella. It's an hour
Okay.
every week where I choose a topic. The very first episode was Ella and Cole Porter, how Ella recorded his music through the years.
Mm-hmm.
And I choose really specific, the best of, and then tell inside stories about how the music was made, who was there, why it's interesting, where it fits into recording history. So Geoffrey Mark Plays Ella will be everywhere in a few weeks. The
Okay.
other show is called Hitting the Mark. Hitting the Mark is me being interviewed by two Ohio journalists, so very close
Okay.
to Canada, about all these famous people I've known and loved and had dinner with and worked with, and in some cases had sex with, on a week by week basis. We just did Peter Marshall because of his birthday. So those two shows will be available everywhere by the time you get to watch this. And I'll sweep the stage, I'll build the sets. I love what I do. As we're talking, I've already had my first COVID shot. I'll get my second one in a little bit. Once that happens, we'll begin talking about my doing stand-up comedy and singing and touring again. So I'm lucky. I have a busy, happy life, and I get to be on with you.
You know what? One of the things I love about having you on,
What's
and
that?
yeah, but you're so well spoken, and you're not just well spoken, but knowledgeable, like whether it be Lucille Ball, Ella Fitzgerald, Mary Tyler Moore, Steve Allen, whoever, you just give a wonderful commentary on who they were, and your encounters with them, and or in case of like Steve Allen, your close friendship, and I love hearing you talk about that in such not just detail but a lot of passion. You really put a lot of gusto into this, and it's why I in fact I gotta say, when I posted the Ella Fitzgerald tribute on Facebook for its anniversary, and you said, "Please have me on again." I was like, "Wow, I'm honored that you wanted to come on again." I was like, "Yeah, absolutely, I'll have you back." It's always a pleasure.
I do hundreds of these every year. You know that.
Hmm.
Some of them, I mean, I don't not enjoy any of them. I love talking. I love entertaining people. I love making people happy.
Hmm.
I'm glad I was born with enough talent to make that happen. But there are a few of you, a dozen of you, who I really enjoy being on with. You ask good questions. You don't ask dumb. So what was it like? What was it like is never a good question.
Yeah.
Ask specific questions.
Hmm.
You respect what I do for a living, and you have nice biceps. So
Yeah.
it's a happy, happy thing for me all the way around. Because I do, I tell people this and I mean it. I'm the luckiest son of a gun on the planet. I, at the age of 13, almost 14, met the love of my life, and in meeting him, had a career put into my lap. So I began working professionally at 15 after Joel trained me for a couple of years.
Hmm.
I've had this very long career, this very long love, and I've gotten to do almost everything I've ever wanted to do in show. My passion is my life. My life is my passion, and I'm able to do it. So I'm very grateful for including the singing and the comedy. We talked about my perhaps doing a song or two or three on today's
Oh,
show.
I plan to. Yeah, I want you to do that. Yeah, you're what I call a champion. You beat all these odds, and you're not. dwelling on the past. You're looking forward, and like just listening to you talk, you're like a I hope it don't sound corny, but like a blooming flower. It's like like
I
you.
have a 4-year-old grandson named
Uh,
Abe. I want to sing at his wedding. I want to be around to watch them grow up. I want to
yeah.
write more books. I want to continue to sing and make people happy. I want to make people laugh. I want to be a source for show business history because I can.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as I have the health to do all those things and still, kind of dapper looking and handsome, why not continue? Why not look forward? This is not my first pandemic. I lived through the AIDS crisis in the 80s. What did I do? I joined forces and helped raise money. Here's a story you may not know.
Okay.
I helped found, I guess, if you've been listening or watching for the last hour, you've pretty much figured out that I'm gay. I helped to found a group in New York City called Gay Friends and Neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
It was not really a political group. It was meant to bring gay men together, not to get drunk, not to get stoned, not to have sex, but to learn how to be friends and neighbors to one
Yeah.
another. Because we'd all had to live under the radar before this. It's like, no, don't live under the radar. Go to restaurants, go to places, go to shows together, be a presence. Well, then of course the AIDS crisis happened almost immediately. A woman by the name of Dr. Matilda Krim came to me. She said, Jeff, I think, I can't hear it, but I think I know how to extend the life of these people. But I have no money. I've been to the president, to the governor, and the mayor. No one will listen. So I began to put on shows in New York City, live all day variety shows. Now, when I say I, there were 100 men behind this. I produced the show, the creative content, was the host, performed, sang, and Dr. Krim took the money I raised for her to Elizabeth Taylor, and she and Miss Taylor formed AMFAR. AMFAR today has $1.6 billion of their assets, and there are thousands of men and women who are alive today because of Dr. Krim. So I've been through the trenches with this kind of thing before. And I know that I have to look forward. I have to look beyond what's right in front of me and have hope. So I live with hope. I
Well,
wish I had a good song. I wish I had a hope song I could sing right now. It would be such a good segue into something. Would you like to hear a song? Is
I
it
want to hear a song.
all right?
Yes.
Let me take my microphone out of the stand here and hold it under my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm going to ask you, like the green color.
Yeah.
Do you want something up tempo? Do you want some jazz? Do you want a ballad? What would you like to hear first?
Oh man.
Give me a category,
Well, you know what? I wore a Blues Brothers mask today,
right?
COVID mask. So let's go with some jazz and blues, like the
All
blues.
right,
Yeah.
all right. This one's always been good for me. I think you'll recognize the song.
Okay.
It's pretty standard. It's been being sung for well over 100 years now.
Okay.
No gal maid has got to shake it on sweet Georgia Brown. Two left feet, but oh so neat, has sweet Georgia Brown. They all sighed, wanna cry for sweet Georgia Brown. I'll tell you just why. You know I don't lie, not much, 'cause it's been said she knocks 'em dead when she lands down. What a shame, what a shame. How she coogles him down. The feller she can't get. The feller she ain't met. Georgia name, the Georgia claim, their sweet Georgia Brown. No gal maid has got a lot of shade on. A sweet Georgia Brown, two left feet are so neat has Georgia Brown. They all sigh and wanna cry for that Georgia Brown. I'll tell you just why. You know I don't lie. Not much, cause it's been said she knocks 'em dead when she lands, when she lands, when she lands in town. What a shame, what a shame. How she cools them down, the fellers she can't get. All the fellers she ain't met. Georgia named her, Georgia claimed her. Sweet Georgia Brown, no gal, not one gal, has got a shade on Georgia Brown. 2 feet, so neat. Hey, that Georgia Brown, they all sigh and wanna cry for that Georgia Brown. Listen while I tell ya. You know, I don't lie for the tips. The porter slips to sweet Georgia Brown. They buy clothes at fashion shows with $1 down. Fellers, she can't get all the fellers. She ain't met well, oh boy. Tip your hats for old joy. She's the cat, she's no gal. It's got a shade on sweet. She's got 2 left feet, but oh, so neat. She's got money and clothes and diamonds too. There's just nothing that gal can't do. She's got the guys all hanging around. How she really googles them down. Georgia named her, Georgia claimed her. Sweet Georgia Brown. Georgia named her, Georgia claimed her. That old gal called Georgia Brown. Pow!
That was fantastic. 2 thumbs up.
Well, I
Oh,
think
wow. Wow, that was great. I've never had somebody come on here and sing before. I am so glad to hear that. Wow, you really poured yourself into that too. That was great.
it's fun. How can you not
Yeah.
pour yourself into it when it's fun?
Well, I know you couldn't see it, but I was just let my knees go as I was sitting here, and nodding my head. But I was like,
I'd love to see your knees sometime, but I'm glad I made you. Yes, I know I'm being outrageous. I'm
oh, Kitty's just sitting over there, and I was like, I don't know if Kitty was listening to that or not.
That's a Marty Page arrangement,
hmm
a wonderful song, and I'm grateful I had the chance to do it.
Oh well, I gotta say that was fantastic. I never heard you sing before, but that was great.
Thank you.
That was great. Yeah, I'm open if you got 2 or 3 songs. Yeah, I'm open to hearing more. But I gotta say that wow, I'm speechless. I'm speechless. I'm honored that you
That's
sang
what
that
we
on
like.
here.
We like to make people speechless. We like to entertain people so that they're all giddy about it. That's the whole point, to share my talent with you.
Now, have
With
you
me.
ever duetted with anybody like?
You mean famous?
Yeah.
Not really.
Okay.
Well, here's why. I've done Broadway show stuff. I've
Uh-huh.
done summer stock and tours, and I was on the stage in New York 3 or 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
But most of my musical life has been in nightclubs where I'm singing by myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I do have kind of an individual sound. I don't blend very well with people, like choral singing. I did it in school, but my voice always stood out. So,
Actually, you don't need another person. You're perfect just
uh,
the way it is. I agree.
yeah, that dinner is now going to be a steak dinner, Gag. Keep giving me the compliments, and the level of dinner will raise higher and higher.
Well, my mom always told me I was very honest. I was a mischievous kid growing up, but I grew up very honest, and she often asked what happened to me.
Hey,
Yeah,
flex your biceps for me. I'll give you as many songs as you want. So,
this is my Jesse the Body pose. I don't have a Jesse the Body Ventura one down here.
if you're not watching this, if you're only listening, he really does have nice biceps. So good for you, sir. See, win-win. It makes you make
I'm no Bruno Sammartino.
no, but you don't need to be. You just need to be Greg.
I just need to be Greg.
Not to put off fun, but do you like ballads?
Sure, I like everything pretty much.
Do you like broken-hearted ballads or do you like romantic ballads?
Well, you know what? I used to be brokenhearted until, yeah, especially Valentine's Day, until Tony Basil come on here and made me believe in love again. And I just prefer ballad, I guess.
Well, I've got something for you.
Sure.
Uh, and unlike Sweet Georgia Brown, which everybody's heard,
Mm-hmm.
this is a song almost nobody's heard.
Okay.
This song written by my friend Paul Williams.
Paul Williams,
Mhm.
the
This is
Phantom of the Paradise.
Paul, as you know, is a genius. He's the president of ASCAP. He's written all these hit songs for himself, for Karen Carpenter. The man's just a genius and a lovely human being. He wrote
Paul
this song.
Williams is somebody I've actually tried to get on the show here at one time and never had any success, but I know I was getting a lot of people on from the Phantom of the Paradise, and I just kept hearing what a genius the guy was. It's funny, he was in Smokey and the Bandit, but I went and saw Baby Driver in the theater, which I enjoyed, but I perked up in my seat the moment he made a cameo appearance. I'm like, that guy is still a class act. He appears in the Muppet movie, and
And he is a
yeah,
genius, and he is a genius. This was a
yeah.
song that he wrote for a film.
Hmm.
The film was okay. The song never took off. And I went into the studio several years ago to record this.
Hmm.
This is a Jeff Stradling orchestration, and the to my heart, the trumpet solo on here is the great Jack Sheldon,
Okay.
who was a wonderful friend to me. I sang with Jack, gosh, for 15 years probably, both with his big bands and his quartets. So he gave me the honor of producing him, because I produced the track, of producing him in the studio and just watching him in the booth playing. But this is a song that is more for people who have loved and lost, for people who realize they've made the same mistake more than once.
Hmm.
The name of the song is called Ordinary Fool, and that's Jack. Only a fool like fools before me. I always think with my heart. Only a fool, the same old story. Seems I was born for the part. The lessons that I've learned, the page I should have turned. I shouldn't cry, but I do, like an ordinary fool. When his ordinary dream falls through. How many times have I mistaken good looks and laughs for bad news? How many times have I mistaken love songs and laughs for the blues? When the road I walked before ends alone at my front door, I shouldn't cry, but I do. Like an ordinary fool when his ordinary dream falls through. Tell him what I mean, Jack. Yeah. Mm, 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 mm. Don't tell him everything. How many times have I mistaken good looks and laughs for bad news? How many times have I mistaken love songs and laughs for the blues when the road I've walked before ends alone at my front door? I shouldn't cry, 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 but I do, like an ordinary fool when his ordinary dream falls through. Like an ordinary fool when his ordinary dream falls through. Ordinary dream falls through. Ordinary dream falls through.
Fantastic. Fantastic. What film did Paul Williams write that for?
He wrote a film. Uh, there was a film made in the mid 1970s.
Hmm.
It was a 20s gangster film that had
Okay.
music, all parts played by children.
Okay.
And that's where the song comes from. Ella did it live for a little while. Karen Carpenter recorded it on one of her albums, and nobody ever picked it up. It's this song that should be a big hit. I sing it whenever I can because I
Hmm.
love it. And it just first of all, Paul's song is wonderful. Jack Sheldon is wonderful, and then it inspires me to be wonderful. Hopefully,
Do you know Paul Williams
yes,
personally?
we are friends.
Oh
But
wow.
that's why I'm able to sing the song because he gave me permission to sing it anywhere I want.
Yeah, Paul Williams. I'm trying to think a gangster movie. Would that be Bugsy Malone?
Hey, good for you. It certainly would.
Wow. Jodie Foster, yeah. I was thinking gangster and musicals like Bugsy Malone. Alan Parker was terrific at doing musicals as a director. Fame, Pink Floyd The Wall. I mean, that guy, Evita, he knew his stuff when it come to musicals. But yeah, Bugsy Malone, Jodie Foster, I remember. Wow. Yeah, Paul Williams is just amazing class act, and I have tremendous respect. Anybody I've interviewed from the Phantom of the Paradise have spoken very fondly of him. So I've never heard a complaint, or of course, why would I? But
He is totally aces in my book.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No, that was fantastic. I love that. Especially between the two very different styles of song, and you give the same energy and the same passion into both, and not that I'm surprised by that, but you sometimes you get performers where they seem to be stronger in one area and not so much with another type and
It's a growth thing with talent, I think.
mhm,
If I was trained at all, I didn't
mhm,
really have voice lessons, but if I was trained at all, I was trained to sing on the New York stage. So I was
mhm,
trained to sing the Broadway style.
mhm,
And I can do that. I do it well, I think.
mhm,
Not often anymore, but I do it well. But there is a sentence that made no sense to me. I would read it in books or I'd hear about it in interviews where somebody would say, you have to let your talent do the talking. Your talent will tell you what to do. And I didn't understand that until I began to understand it. And I don't know how else to explain that. All of a sudden, I seemed to instinctively know how to sing certain things. And of course, I rehearse them. Nothing is ever greatly extemporaneous, unless literally somebody says, "Hey, Jeff, would you sing this?" And I've not done it before.
mhm.
I don't have music for it, so I can't do it here. But that's how Never Never Land got into my repertoire from Peter Pan. I was in a club in New York and I was recognized. And they asked me to sing. Would you sing Never Never Land? And I did surprisingly well, quite frankly, because I'd never sung it before. And then I began doing it as a medley with Over the Rainbow.
Over the
So
rainbow.
when I have live musicians, I don't have an orchestra in my house, obviously. When I have live musicians with me, I do that as one of the numbers in the show. But without live musicians, I can only do what I have here. Somebody did that to me once. Someone earlier this year or late last year had me on, and would you please sing? They asked for the medley, and I said, I don't have. And they said, sing it a cappella, and it was live. I was on doing a Facebook Live thing with them. I couldn't be rude and say, no, I'm not going to do something I have no music, but I did it. Everybody loved it. But no, I'm not going to do it again. Uh, there is this thing about getting older with singing. You have more confidence, you have more experience to draw from, but you're aware there are going to be some days where you're going to open your mouth and not much is going to come out. So I try really hard not to do things I haven't rehearsed or don't have music for.
I One of the heartbreaking stories I've heard recently is the story with Huey Lewis, where his hearing is going. And I grew up listening to him. I'll tell you, he really brought forth saxophones and harmonicas into his music very well. And I feel bad when I hear somebody struggling to do what he's passionate about, you know? Yeah.
I'm trying to think what I could do that would be a little bit more of the Broadway. Well, I have something. It's kind of personal. Can I say
Okay.
something personal?
Sure.
This is a song written by Irving Berlin,
Okay.
the musical Annie Get Your Gun,
Okay.
which leads me to have to tell you about the day I met Joel.
Mm-hmm.
We had moved, my family and I, to a suburb of Baltimore called Randallstown, Maryland,
Okay.
south of the Mason-Dixon line.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my first day of high school. I was so young because I'd skipped a couple of grades. Because God also made me smart, which has been as much of a hindrance as it's been a help. But again, I'm grateful that's how I was born. And I found myself enrolled in a musical theater class. I've never heard of that in a high school since, really. Best of my knowledge, I'm the only one who got this. And the man who was in charge of it was in charge of the choruses at the high school, and he was in charge of the music for the musicals they put on. He looked like Ted Baxter from the Mary Tyler Moore Show. He was a handsome man with a shock of gray hair, a nice singing voice. and openly gay. And he didn't care because he was already vested in his pension. If they fired him, he couldn't have cared less. And he put me together. He broke up the class into twos to work on a song. And he's the one who introduced me to Joel. What I'm going to say sounds overly romantic and perhaps not true. You're going to have to trust me that it's completely true. And yes, it is. I walked over to Joel. I'm 5'8", he was 5'6". So he immediately, there was a bunch of risers behind him where the chorus worked. Took a step up or two so they could be taller than I was. So they could look down on me. And we looked at each other and started talking. And I don't even remember what we talked about anymore. We never worked on the song. But I knew from that talk that I was going into show business. I knew for certain that I was gay. And I knew for certain that I'd be in love with him for the rest of my life. And I have been. When people found out about us, a lifetime of you, the most asked questions I get are, how did this happen? How could you have been in love at 13? How did you keep this a secret from everybody? How did you guys function in bed? Which I don't answer to anybody. How? And this was a song I used to sing to him just because I loved him so much. May I sing it for you now?
Go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
So this is the most romantic song I know, and it answers, I think, almost everything. Don't ask me just how it happened. I wish I knew. I can't believe that it's happened, but still it's true. Oh, how it's true. I got lost in his arms, and I had to stay. It was dark in his arms, and I lost my way. From the dark came a voice, and it seemed to say, there you go. There you go. How I felt as I fell, I just can't recall, but his arms held me fast, and that broke the fall. And I said to my heart, as it foolishly kept jumping all around, I got lost, but look what I found. How do I explain walking over to a complete stranger, looking in his eyes, and my soul comes out of my body, as does his. They embrace and intermingle. And all of a sudden, I'm a different person than I was 1 second earlier. How? There you go. There you go. How I felt as I fell, I just can't recall. But his arms held me fast, and that broke the fall. And I said to my heart, as it foolishly kept jumping all around, I got lost, but look what I found.
love that the lyric there. I got lost, but look what I found.
I owe you a couple of notes. I got choked up.
Oh, I
Sorry about
didn't
that.
notice because Kitty's been over there. I kept looking over there.
Well, those of you who have been watching and listening, I owe you a few notes. In the middle of that, I started to cry a little bit. And while in movies it works beautifully, in real life, if you're crying, you can't sing. So I owe you a few notes, but hopefully the sentiment was there.
You know what? I think you were fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
Fantastic. I'm not just saying that. Now, if I were singing, it wouldn't sound so fantastic.
Yeah,
But
but you can take off your shirt and flex your biceps. I have to sing.
I can only do this. My Jesse
I,
the Body pose.
and Greg, that's enough.
If I have feather boa, I could be Jesse.
It's a funny thing, feather boa and flexed biceps, how they don't quite work together, and yet somehow they do.
Well, they worked with Jesse Ventura, but Jesse was a personality just on his own.
I once knew a comedy writer, I won't mention his name.
Uh-huh.
And above his, this is a straight guy, and
Uh-huh.
above his bed, there was like a leash and a boa. And the boa was for him because those are the games he and his wife played. He had the biceps and everything, but the boa, we worked for them. So
Oh,
that's Jesse.
okay. No, that was great, and I'm glad you got your books coming. I gotta say, I wasn't prepared for those songs. I gotta say, I love that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad that you sang them on here, and
Greg, it's a funny thing about myself. I'm very lucky in that a lot of people seem to really enjoy it when I perform. And there are
mhm.
people out there who can't stand my voice. And I don't know why that is, but not everyone's gonna love every singer. Um, I try to sing from the heart. I try to sing with passion
Mhm.
and let people know what's going on. I think when one is a singer, A, you have to have the talent up front. B, it's incumbent upon you to develop the talent. Please notice my incredible jewelry as long as I wore it. I put on the emeralds today to match the green hat for you.
Yeah, like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You have to have the talent, you have to develop the talent. You have to know what sorts of songs suit you. You have to have the ability to get the meaning of the lyric across. You can't just sound pretty, or if you're doing jazz, scat your way through everything. The lyrics mean something. And then you have to have the right arrangement, because the wrong arrangement in the right song, you still have zero. So it's Mary Martin used to sing a song written by her Richard Rodgers' daughter, Mary. It takes three to make music: the songwriter, the singer, and then the audience. You take one of those things out, you have nothing. So you have to have an audience who appreciates what you do.
Yes, absolutely.
The funny thing,
Absolutely.
I hosted a couple of years ago now the first Palm Springs International Comedy Festival. I was on the board of directors. I hosted it, and I was the opening act at night for people. We had big stars come and work for us at night. And during the day, it was all these hopeful young comedians, 50 a day, right? And I had to have something funny to say in between each one. And at the end of the first day, the man who was really in charge of the whole thing pulls me inside. He said, "Wow, you're really good at this. Have you thought of doing this for a living?" And I said, "What do you think I've been doing for the last 45 years? Why did you invite me here? Because I'm a comedian. Of course I do this for a living. I have a strange act in that I have no act. My
Mhm.
my humor is all in the moment, reacting to other people, reacting to the audience. Well, I have a few stories I tell that I'll tell them almost all the time because they get me started. But I don't have like, here's my 45 minutes of tight material. It's all off the cuff.
It's funny you mentioned Fran Drescher earlier, and speaking of singing, she was in the great "This Is Spinal Tap," and of course we all remember that line. the the amp that goes to 11. This goes one more.
The funny thing about voices,
Uh-huh.
I grew up mostly in Brooklyn, New York, and everybody around me, my parents, except for my grandmother, everybody on the street, all of our relatives talk like Fran Drescher does in The Nanny. That adenoidal whining.
I like her voice, to be frank.
And that's how I spoke as a child. I had to develop this voice. I had to learn to slow down. I had to learn not to sound like that. For singing, it's useless. And for talking, if that's the way you talk all the time, unless you're playing one character and one character only your entire life, it doesn't work. Uh, if I'd only done stand up, it would have worked. But to be an actor, to be a singer, to be a radio show host, to be, they're not going to invite me on the Tonight Show and whine. And I have been on the Tonight Show. So I had to learn. I had to learn not to sound.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. Paul Williams, I mean, if you got him backing you up, you get a major backup right there. And of course,
Look at
Steve
the
Allen had your back, and
look. I have been mentored or helped in some fashion
mhm.
by Tom Thurston, Louis Nunn, Pat Harrington Jr., Howard Morris, Milton Berle, Jonathan Winters, Lucille Ball, Lucy Arnaz, Desi Arnaz Jr. The list is long. Paul Williams, Ella Fitzgerald. Um, I'm lucky. I have to assume I was given some God-given talent, and I can take a bow for what I've done with it. I have been a sponge. I don't mean I sponge off of people, meaning I soak up anything anybody wants to teach me. If it's
Mhm.
something that my talent recognizes as something I need to know, I soak it up. So the people who helped me were happy to help me because they actually could see their help working. You know, I had my own radio show in Los Angeles for a while, KRLA, the Geoffrey Mark show. All kinds of stars came on with me and played with me, and well, that came out wrong. Played with me on my show, and Jack Sheldon saw that I could sing jazz. I sing jazz as well as I do because Jack gave me the opportunity. You know, I would show up. He had a running gig at a restaurant, a jazz restaurant in Glendale, California, on the West Coast, called Jack's, JAX. And he was with his quartet. And this was our deal. I came in every Thursday night. I only did one or two songs, but never rehearsed and never pre-thought. I get up on the stand with him, and he'd say to me, slow or fast. That's the only choice I got. Then he'd pick the song and the key, and off we went. And I had to adapt to that. It's like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but the audience doesn't know that. And it's jazz. So after a while, it got to the point where we just snapped right into it. What do you want to do, Jeff? Fast? Let it be good in F. And I said to him, in the key of F, because it's really high. He said, all right, here we go. And you know what? He was right. It was the perfect key for me. So we learned to do that. And in fact, I was one of the speakers at Jack's funeral.
Do you
Uh,
have a favorite type of music you like to sing to?
I like the standards, the Frank Sinatra kind of music.
Okay.
These days, people call that jazz. I don't think what
Okay.
Frank did was jazz, but Frank was very nice to me, helped me
Mhm.
out. Dinah Shore helped me out. There's all these people who have been just so generous to me. But I guess if I had to pick one thing I really like the best, it's jazz or Broadway. The two things I've done most of my life, stage singing in a musical or singing in a nightclub, which is a whole different set of muscles. Singing on a stage in a character with no microphone, with a full orchestra, is a whole 180 degrees away from being on a nightclub stage with a microphone in your hand and pleasing the folks who are right on top of you. You can't sing at them. You have to sing to them and with them. And once
Well,
I learned how to do that, I found that I enjoyed both a lot. I
I'll
love
have
it.
I have a double question for you. Do you have a favorite movie musical? And number two, is there a musical performance that you hold in high regard in a movie musical?
I can't pick one.
Okay.
Uh, if you're a baby boomer or you're gay, The Wizard of Oz, um, Funny Girl,
Hmm.
almost anything Fred Astaire ever did. Um,
Singing in the Rain?
you know what? I'm one of the few people who don't think that was one of the best musicals ever made.
Oh, I love
I'm not saying
it.
it's bad. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm saying that MGM specifically did a whole lot of other musical movies that I thought were better. It's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, but one song, one perform. If I had to pick one song from any film, it would probably be. This is so stereotypical. Barbara Streisand singing "Don't Rain on My Parade" and Funny.
Oh,
It's
okay.
the orchestration is brilliant. She'd already sung it in New York and London, so she really knew the song well. It was written for her voice. And William Wyler directing. It was staged beautifully. And
Hmm.
that's something to which I have a track, but I will never sing in public because I will be immediately compared to her and I will lose. So I don't, I try not to sing people's biggest hits if I'm singing things. I have, other than Ordinary Fool and a couple of things in the New York area that were kind of like people knew I sang them. I don't have any big hit records. So you're forced to cover other people's songs. But like I won't sing Judy Garland's Over the Rainbow. I'm not going to sing Frank Sinatra singing I Got the World on a String or I Get a Kick Out of You. There's just some things I won't do because I will lose.
Hmm.
There are lesser known things I will do, and happily so.
What do you think of somebody like somebody has done musicals like Olivia Newton-John?
She's a lovely lady. Olivia has a pop voice.
Hmm.
Bless her heart. She's got a lot of physical problems. She's a pop voice. She was wonderful in Greece. I've not seen her on the stage do musicals. I don't think she could do a Doris Day or a Judy Garland kind of musical. She doesn't have the voice.
Okay, yeah.
You have to have a certain kind of talent. Any more than I adored Helen Reddy. Any
Oh,
more than
Helen Reddy, yeah.
any more than Helen could have sung those kinds of things.
My introductory to Helen Reddy. We don't have drive-ins here anymore, but my parents used to take my brothers and I to the drive-in when we were young, and the first movie I recall seeing at the drive-in, I would have been 5 years old. But I remember Pete's Dragon, and of course Helen Reddy doing that musical number where she's kicking the beer glasses off the bar and doing that number, just putting all that energy into it. That's what I remember about Helen Reddy is that first trip to the drive-in.
And there are people who are brilliantly talented but didn't necessarily have great voices. Debbie
Hmm.
Reynolds did musicals. Debbie Reynolds toured. Debbie Reynolds is in nightclubs, but she wasn't a great singer. She was a great talent. Wonderful woman. I just adored her.
Hmm.
But I don't own any Debbie Reynolds albums. Um, you never saw Mary Martin in a nightclub singing. She had a very pretty voice. It was for the stage. Ethel Merman seemed to transcend. She did musicals, she did films, she did nightclubs, she did concerts, she did philharmonics, because she was Ethel Merman. But there are a lot of people out there who did musicals.
I
Nanette,
think
I adored Nanette Fabre. Nanette did all kinds of musicals in New York City, and she really could sing. But there aren't any Nanette Fabre albums out there.
Ethel Merman. Every time I think of her now, I think of that cameo she did in Airplane. That was so funny. I'm so glad she was game to do that too. It was such a great
People
moment.
people remember her from that and from the Ethel Merman disco album,
Hmm.
of which I have the very first copy, autographed by her. When it first came out, I was the first one. She signed it for me. Um, I wish they didn't remember her for that. The joke is that Ethel Merman killed disco, but it's a very strange album. Wrong arrangements, wrong songs. Had they had her cover disco songs, I think she could have done it. But having her sing her Broadway hits, and then they got Peter Max, who had done Barbara Streisand's early albums and the Carol Burnett show's music.
Hmm.
Brilliant man. I was crazy about his wife, but not for disco. And Ethel had Donna Summer standing there with her in the studio, helping her to get it. But it's a very strange album.
Yeah. No, it was so wonderful having you come on here today, and I gotta say, talking to you is in your knowledge and just the passion you put into it is one thing, but hearing you sing, I gotta say
Well,
that was the cherry on top
if we
today.
are friends, one more song.
Yeah, please go for it.
Let me do some real jazz here.
All right.
All right. This is a song that had been featured, and I hope I still have enough voice left to do that. Featured with the Count Basie Orchestra.
Okay.
The arrangement here is by Quincy Jones,
Okay.
and the lyrics were written by Ella Fitzgerald.
Okay.
Let's see if you recognize it and if you like it. I'm the wrong gender, but we'll forget that. Those silk shiny stockings that I wear when I'm with you, I wear 'cause you told me that you like that crazy hue. When we go to a dance, do you think of romance? Oh no, you take a glance at those shiny stockings, then comes some chick along with great big stockings too. Then you changed your mind about me. Why, I never knew. I guess I'll have to find a new guy who digs my shiny stockings too. Ah, Count Basic, rude out, ooh, ooh, doo, ba doo, oh. What do you do? What do you do? Do it be ba do ba do way out. Sha ba ba do way out. Ba 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 do way ba ba do way. Oh a oh shaboy ba wow. Shaboy ba wow. Shabba ba do be ba do yo shabba ba do we ba boo do ba ba do o de ba do way out. Bo de ba do way out. Ba rip chop ba do o ba do way. Ah ha! Shiny stockings. Shiny stockings, bat 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 body, a ripped up boro a badu bada loaded bope, badu badu a babu one more. Then comes some chick along with great big stockings too. Then you changed your mind about me. Why I never knew. I guess I'll have to find a new guy who digs my shiny stockings too. Yes, 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 a new guy who digs my shiny stockings too. Bio, do we shiny stockings?
Awesome. You know what it kind of put me in mind of? You
What's
ever
that?
see the movie Some Like It Hot, where Marilyn Monroe is singing that song, and
Run the mile.
yeah, and ends it with boop boop and all that at the end of it. That's what kind of put me in mind of a little bit.
It's scat singing, and
Yeah.
I'm lucky. I'm pretty good at it. So there's always in my act, whether I'm using tracks or I'm singing with a live quartet or trio, there's always two or three things where I scat through at least part of it because I love doing it and people love hearing it.
Wow. Yeah. Well, we covered quite a bit today. We had no intention of going into wrestling, but we had a nice little chat about wrestling. We both
Hey,
agreed.
I got to see your biceps because of that, so it's win-win,
Got
baby.
to do my Jesse the Body pose. Yeah, my collection. But yeah, that was an interesting conversation, and then we talked about some of your background, and but I gotta say, segueing into the music, love that. That was terrific. This was a treat today to
I
have you come on here
appreciate
and
it.
sing.
It is my pleasure. I appreciate that I can promote what I'm doing. I
Yeah,
appreciate that. I appreciate that you gave me the space to talk about Joel a little bit.
absolutely,
When you
absolutely.
keep a secret like that for 5 decades,
Hmm.
I find myself now wanting to talk about him so much. I'm a very lucky man.
Absolutely.
Joel married a woman that we went to school with, who I know
Hmm.
very well, had two children, and they have embraced me as their stepfather. In fact, our daughter and my two grandsons moved to the West Coast to be near me. They live about 10 minutes away from me now. So I'm a very lucky guy. I've been filled with love. I've known what true love is. And I've had this, what I think is a great career.
I think so. Yeah.
Grammy nomination, Emmy Award. I've been an author. I have been a writer. I have been a producer. I have been a director. I've written for television. I've been on the New York stage. I've toured. I've been in films. I've been an actor on television. I've worked on cruise ships all over the world. And I get to be with you.
And
So
you're in my favorite year with
I
Peter
was.
O'Toole and Jessica Harper, I think was in that.
Yeah, if you blink in that one, I'm gone. The larger part I have was in a film, oh, terrible film called Fighting Man with Peter Fonda.
Okay.
Terrible movie. Every time I ran into Peter as I grew older and became well known, and he would, oh yeah, we were in a film together. He always apologized to me. I mean, literally every single, even if we had lunch together, Jeff, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Because he was drugged out while he made that film. I'm like, he was there, but he wasn't there. And he was very embarrassed that how unprofessional his behavior was at that moment in his life. Peter was a lovely human being and a good actor, a great talent, and very respectful of me. I mean, Peter was a huge star. And there are people, I guess I'm a celebrity. There
Hmm.
are some folks out there who even call me a star. They're even blessed their hearts, a few people who are now referring to me as a show business icon. But Peter was a great big star. And that he had that kind of thoughtfulness for me shows you it's a funny thing. Show business people, tons of insecurities, tons of jealousies, yet many of them are some of the nicest people you'd want to meet. And usually, the bigger the star, the nicer they are. It's the ones who rise only this far. They're the ones who are angry and bitchy, cantankerous. The ones who come all the way up here, a lot of times, just so lovely. Even Freddie Mercury. who I had a date with.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
But you know what?
uh,
And it was alcohol soaked and drug soaked. This is the late 70s in New York City. I cannot romanticize what happened, but it happened. But you know what? He was human about it. He cared how I felt about it. He cared that I was okay after it, that I had a good time with him. He didn't use me and discard me, shall we say. Which is not to infer what we did together, because you're never going to know what we did together.
no,
But he made it human because he was a lovely human being.
and Peter Fonda, I like his daughter Bridget too. Bridget, I always like enjoyed her talent.
If you talk about genetics, and I think
Yeah.
it's very unfair for children and grandchildren of icons, it makes it sound as though they owe their talent to their predecessor. No, everybody's talent is their own. Jane's talent is her own, and Peter's was his own, and Bridget's is her own, and Henry's was his own. I think, unfortunately, Peter and Jane were nicer people than Henry was, but but I didn't know Henry, so I can't tell you for sure. But I think each one deserves their own moment in the spotlight. The Ball Arnaz family have been wonderful to me through the years.
Hmm.
And as Lucy Arnaz once said to me, my name is Lucy and it's Arnaz. No matter which way you turn, and if you add my married name, Luckenbill, well, Larry Luckenbill is a big star. Uh, that idea that no matter what she does, her parents overshadow her. Well, why are you comparing? Lucy Arnaz is her own person, a lovely, lovely, warm, wise, generous, spiritual human being, a good wife, a loving mother and grandmother, and a dear, dear friend. And Jesse Jr. has his own set of talents, and they're both really smart people. They didn't have much of an education outside of show business, but they're really smart. They're their own folks. They are who they are, whether their parents had been famous or not. So I try really hard not to compare generations. So Bridget is her own person.
I
Whatever.
always liked Bridget, single white female, Jackie Brown. I always perked up when Bridget Fonda was on the screen. I always liked her.
Me too.
Yep. Have you met Bridget?
I haven't,
Oh, you have
but
met
I
Bridget.
just enjoy her performances.
Yeah,
And,
I
and
do
I
too.
think Jane is a brilliant, brilliant actor.
Hmm.
I've
Yeah.
never seen her be bad. I've never seen. I've seen maybe some of the scripts weren't up to snuff, but I've never seen her be bad. She's been wonderful in everything she's ever done over a
Hmm.
very long career that does include Broadway and the London stage and films and television and all the things she has tried to do, whether you agree with her politics or not. She was out there trying to
Oh,
get
I love Jane. Yeah.
to make a world a better place. Her way of thinking.
Yeah.
You have to admire that.
And of course, I mentioned Jessica Harper earlier. She sang in Phantom of the Paradise. She's somebody who
You're
also had.
obsessed with that film, you know.
Huh?
You're obsessed with the Phantom of the Paradise.
You know what? I've interviewed, I think, four people from that film. I interviewed two of those bandmates that were from it. I've interviewed Jessica Harper and one of the female dancers that's in it, Saratoga Valentine. I interviewed her, and yeah, no, Jessica's wonderful in that movie, and it took me 2 years to get her on here, but eventually I landed her, and it was well worth it. I always tell people when they're going after people, because it took me a while to get Tony Basil as well. And I always tell people use the three P's when you're podcasting. I said be patient, persistent, and polite.
Yes.
Yep, yep. Sometimes people have to reschedule, and something comes up. You just say, "No worries. When would you like to reschedule?" And then you take it from,
Well, Greg,
yeah,
you are a gentleman. That you are.
I
And
try.
You succeed. You make me feel comfortable enough to come on, be who I am,
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, ridiculously flirt with you, and you take it with a smile, and make me feel at home. So
Yep.
we only have a couple of minutes left to our 2 hours here. May I take a minute and say something, please? Not
Sure.
about show business or anything else. Lots of us in show business have been locked down now, as we're recording this, for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us haven't made any money in a long time. And as these vaccinations are being given out around the world, it looks like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. But we're not there yet. Please continue to wear your masks. Please continue to wash your hands. Please keep the 6 feet distancing. Please get your vaccinations. Get them both if there's two involved. And wait 2 weeks after that. And then don't get your information from the internet. Don't even get it from your governments, whichever government you happen to be living under. Get your information from your medical people. Talk to your doctors about when it's safe for you to start doing things and opening up your life. Don't rush in, because if we rush in too quickly, COVID is going to spike again like you've never seen, and everything will get shut down. And that won't make you happy. It sure won't make me happy.
No.
And when we finally can go out there, don't ask for free drinks. Overtip your servers. They're starving. Don't ask for free tickets. We need the money. Believe it or not, even those among of us who are wealthy, and I'm not wealthy, but those who are have had no income for a year. So support us, support people in show business, and please protect yourselves. Because if you all die off, we've got nobody to play for. So please, we need you healthy and well. We need you in seats, in theaters, in movies, in nightclubs. Please, 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 please do this for me. Do it for you. And before we can turn around, life is going to be a whole lot nicer for us. I rest my case.
I agree with you totally on everything you just said.
It has been a pleasure being with you. And let's mention that if you get to hear my radio shows,
Okay.
there is me on Facebook, Geoffrey Mark, GeoffreyMark. I love
Mm-hmm.
to hear from my fans. There is Geoffrey Mark Plays Ella group
Mm-hmm.
on Facebook. You can message me there. If you want to hear certain songs or you have questions or comments, love to hear from you. And be with us, because
Absolutely.
the best is yet to come. So at least I'll let Greg stop the show, but from my end of things, God bless and have a happy.
God bless you, Geoffrey Mark. Thank you so much for blessing me with your presence again. And you know what? In a year's time, hopefully things will have been opened up and things are better. Love to have you back.
Oh, in a year's time, I hope to be there with you in the studio and do it in person.
You know what? That'd be great too. That'd be great too.
And
Absolutely.
don't wait a year. Have me back before a year goes by.
Well, okay. Yep, sure.
All right. You
May-
heard it here first. You said yes.
Maybe I'll have a Jesse the Body Ventura figurine I could show off on here.
Maybe you'll shock me. I'll have a Geoffrey Mark figurine you can show off on there.
Are there Geoffrey Mark figures out there?
No, that's why you'd surprise me, because they don't exist.
Oh, I think Fran Drescher has one though.
Yeah, she does.
We need to get Fran Drescher figurines out there. She's a classy lady. She takes it to 11.
Yes, she does. All right,
Thank,
My Canadian friends, it's good to share my talent with you and share some good laughs and some music with you. And I look forward to the next time.
God bless you. Thank you so much for blessing me with your talent and your singing voice today,
It's an honor.
and for the green hat. You take care, and God bless.
God bless.
Bye bye.
Okay, we're clear.